Bienvenue tous. Time now for our international press review. In the papers is what we like to call it. Owen Fairclough is here. Owen, Barack Obama, another good night.
Absolutely, taking Mississippi. But we've been looking actually this morning, moving away from Mississippi a little bit, at the Pennsylvania Morning Call. The election, it appears, is already starting to divide along racial lines. It was bound to happen. After all, we're talking about Americans who could elect the first female or black president in November. Well, in the Pennsylvania Morning Call, they've had an interview with Barack Obama, in which he responds to comments by a lady called Geraldine Ferrero. She's a Clinton supporter who suggested that Obama wouldn't have the lead he has unless he was black. She said, if Obama was a white man, he would not be in this position. Well, an extremely angry Barack Obama there said he thinks this is patently absurd. He thinks that anybody who knows the history of the USA would say this was patently absurd. Well, the UK Guardian has also taken on this story. Richard Adams, in a comment piece, mentions that this is an increasingly hostile campaign, but he points out that the election is, certainly in Mississippi, starting to divide along racial lines. He points out that 90% of black voters voted for Obama in Mississippi, while 3/4 of white voters voted for Hillary Clinton.
There was this kind of truce between the two, wasn't there? They kind of stopped slagging each other off, but it seems to be a very fragile truce.
And it's erupted again.
And obviously it's erupted again. They risk kind of eating themselves, don't they? It's a sort of a terrible state for them. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. An increasingly bitter Democrat camp. And by the same token here, in the Times in the UK, they've been looking at the wife of Elliot Spitzer. Just to recap, this is the wife of this is the wife of Elliot Spitzer, the New York governor.
The guy who's been investigated by the FBI over the prostitution links,
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
They've done a profile of his wife, Silda. Indeed, it's the classic "stand by your man" question mark. There are obviously comparisons here with the Monica Lewinsky affair. Which engulfed Bill Clinton's presidency. This profile here of Silda Spitzer says that it's embarrassing for her, and they pose the question, should she stand by her man, or is it time for her to dump him?
Stand by her man. Tammy Wynette in the press review. Fantastic stuff. What's next?
Indeed. Well, we're moving back to France now. The first ever Fertility Fair in France takes place today.
Fertility Fair? What's that about?
Well, this is amid growing concern that women in France, get this, are leaving it a bit too late to have children. There are many women now, they reckon around 30,000 women in France now over the age of 40 give birth. That's compared to 8,000 20 years ago. The Parisian newspaper there has a picture of Marcia Cross, a Desperate Housewives star who gave birth to twins at the age of 45. And it does...
Twins at 45? What a night. I mean, twins at any age is a nightmare, isn't it?
Indeed. It does.
I've got 4 kids, so I can talk about these things. Go on.
Well, there you go. It does actually end on a word of warning to ladies and some advice that ladies who are over the age of 38 should, if they meet the man of their dreams, should get busy if they want to have children, amid concern that your chances of conceiving are less and less over the age of 38.
Women everywhere getting busy. Just the image of that's kind of like put me off my track. What's your last story?
Finally, we've got something from the UK Sun here. A bit of a French, Scottish and English connection. This is Manchester United boss Sir Alex Ferguson, a Scot who's famous almost for his fiery temper as much as his strong accent. There are increasing numbers of French players in the Man U ranks. Patrice Evra, Gaël Clichy, Louis Saha. So Fergie's learning French so he can better communicate with his players. Apparently a source at the club says he's almost fluent, but his accent's quite strong. They've also got a helpful guide, a sort of franglais guide for Fergie.
Fantastic, that's great stuff. Owen, thank you very much. That's our international press review. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.